I've always had a strange gift. I can always tell when someone is good or when they are bad. It's a weird power. What could a person do with this sort of information? I always wondered what the determining factors were to make someone good or bad. I'd always thought that everyone should be good, right? It just wasn't that simple. I came to understand that there was so much more bad in the world than there was good. The bad people had beasts on their shoulders. I began to call them monsters. They appeared on the shoulders of random people. They had drooling snouts and pointing fangs, along with scaly skin and horns. Their eyes were so wide and bulging, I could always feel them trying to look into my soul. They knew I was the only one who could see them. I had one too. Because of this, I always thought of myself to be a bad person. I hated looking in the mirror every morning and seeing the monster. I always helped old ladies across the street and did the cleaning for my mother. No matter what, the tiny monster stayed. He would sit on my shoulder and laugh and whisper horrible things into my ear. He'd always tell me that he wanted to get into my heart and devour me. Most people had these creatures on their shoulders. I couldn't trust anyone. The monsters would whisper and hiss at me if I got too close. The kind old lady across the street who always watched me get on the bus and waved had won. Hers would tell me about how she cheated on math tests as a teenager and smoked when she had told her children she had quit. While I didn't think this was evil, she still had a monster on her shoulder. Mrs. Green had her monster, while Toby Wilkins did not. I knew he hid his girlfriend. He was a violent man in his early 30s who had married at a young age. He'd been abusing his wife for years. I knew he drank and he'd gamble their savings away on booze. However, his monster was gone. What could evil be? When I was 12, my mom turned up dead in her home. After this, my father's monster had disappeared. His had big teeth and hungry eyes. He would drool and froth at the mouth and say horrible and vile things about affairs with younger women. My father had told the police officers that she'd fallen down the stairs. My mom had had a monster. Hers had died when she did. Her funeral was short and the priest monster preached about hell and eternal damnation. It was after this that I decided I was going to kill everyone with a monster. My father left me with a teenage babysitter named Rachel. She was pretty and blonde with an air of expensive perfume when she walked. I had always expected that she and my father were sleeping together. It was just like him to take a young girl to bed after my mom's death. She couldn't have been more than 16. She told me I was a sweet little girl and that she was glad that we were friends. Her monster taunted me as she spoke. Later that night, she thought I had gone to bed. She began to speak to someone on the phone. I expected it was my father. Her voice was coy and innocent. I felt bad for her. I grabbed the hammer my father kept in the garage and smashed her in the back of the head. I repeated my assault until her gurgling finally died down. She lay there on the couch covered in her blood and guts, with the phone still lodged in her hand. I felt great, finally seeing the monster die. I smashed her phone too. The feeling of finally killing a monster brought me joy. I could feel myself buzzing with the excitement. I contained myself enough to jump into the shower. I washed off all the blood and brain matter from my body. I had to find a way to clean the body from the living room before my father got home and saw his precious new girlfriend smashed to bits. As I exited the bathroom with the bucket and cleaning supplies, I caught a look at myself in the mirror. My monster had completely disappeared. Was I no longer evil because I had killed Rachel? As I stood and stared at myself for what seemed like hours, the truth of my gift finally began to dawn on me. Excitement and dread filled me when I finally realized what it all meant. I'd finally let it into my heart.